Good morning, early birds. So happy that you're here to share the light, share the joy, share the mystery, share the ongoing what confusion. If there's some still left in us after quite a beginning of a year, if some of you have been on the meditation we started on January 1st and we called it our goal, our New Year's Day, you know, um, decision to have every day be a day of timeless, unconditional love. So today we're on 37, I think, day 37. And I'm very proud of that we can remember the reality. Can you imagine that? We're right in the right place this morning because if the Bhagavad Gita is something that is ringing in your heart right now, then you are totally dialed into that timeless, unconditional love as we sit here now. This is we're going to look at the three grades of spiritual practices today. So we're still on those three, the three gunas. They're hard to get out of our consciousness. Whether they're there kind of just locked on because we don't realize the power of these three gunas so much. We don't realize how they're, except if you're on Gita. And today we're going to look at the three grades. We went that route with the diet. Now we're going with the practices. So I'm just going to just let you have a moment of introspection on what is spiritual practice? What does that mean to you? Your spiritual practices. Are we born to dedicate our lives to spiritual practices? Is that why we're here? Or are we born to, get caught up in the rat race? And they say the only problem about being in the rat race is that even if you win the race, you're still a rat. So let's just muse a little bit on what spiritual practice means to us. When I look within on that question, I feel a lifetime almost since 1968, I think, when I became a Kriyaban of Paramahansa Yogananda's teachings in 1968. And so we're in now 2026. So there's some years that has been spent in what we could say is a spiritual practice, for at least for me, and I'm pretty sure it's happening with some of you. But the time matter, since it's timeless love. The time frame doesn't matter. It's just that what we can discern this morning, what we can come up with for ourselves, that determines which one of those gunas is operating us when it comes to this idea of remembering. Remembering, I think practice for us in a 3D HD heavy delusion world, that it is all about remembering because the veil is thick and the delusion is thick. As Yogananda said once, that it's so thick, the delusion is so strong that even God shudders at the very thought of it. So we have quite a backdrop to work in, from, transcend, or get caught up in this three in these three gunas. So I just wanted to just have you feel out for a moment or two what this spiritual practice means to you, and how we can renew, uh, rediscover, remember, and leave this stream today with a passion, a purpose of how important it is to, well, do some of those things I just mentioned, to remember where we've come from, who we are, where's our next stop, and how do we want to live each moment of our existence while embodied for the rest of this term. This term, you're going to be president of yourself for the entire term of the rest of your days, my dears. So how do you want to lead? Or maybe you don't lead. Maybe you surrender. Yeah, maybe we surrender. Maybe we don't even consider that we can do anything on our own. Maybe we're just part of that sattvic guna, and that's the way it is. That somehow, through amazing grace and through our practices from many lives and this life, that we're right on the precipice, right on the brink of a major breakthrough, meaning that we're on the high end of those three gunas, meaning the sattvic quality. And I think that many of you are there. So welcome. Welcome this morning, my dears. It was a long introduction. But listen, let's let's pick up. Let's pick up. I just want to make sure I have something going here. I want to make sure that I get this recorded. Our Gita class this morning. Yeah. So let's see where we are and where we left off. If you have your book out, you don't need to have your book out because you have your heart out, right? That's where all the intuitive knowledge is inside the heart center. So if you're in a mood for loving this morning, you're in the perfect place. You're in the sattvic quality or the sattvic guna. So this is page 997 if you have your book open. 3 grades of spiritual practices, verses 11 to 13. Chapter 17 of 18 verses, 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. That can't be right, can it? Well, we'll see. We'll just be here now. We'll just be here now. So this verse 11 says this, the verse 11. This is on page 998. That yajna, do you all know what that means? Yajna? It means the fire of practice, the fire of your determination to discover the truth of you, the truth of life, the purpose of life, the goal of life. And I think you all know that why we're here on Gita is to walk this path in the best way we can, discover that we are not who we think we are, and to ride the spirit wave all the way into the shores of divine fulfillment. How's that? You want to go for a ride in this tsunami of love right to the shores of divine fulfillment? Well, this verse 11 talks about the sattvic guna first, that yajna. Our practice is a sacrifice because it doesn't go on the grain of normal physical human. What do I want? What are my needs? All about me, mine, and ours. It's about sacrifice. Because to be in a material world and at the same time have a spiritual quest going on at the same time, we're going to need to sacrifice. So that yajna or sacrifice or performance of duty, my dears, it says in this verse 11, page 998, that yajna or sacrifice or performance of duty is sattvic, which is offered. It's a sacrifice. You know, it's your it's your donation in the basket that's passed if you go to a church, right? You're making an offering of your time, of your, of letting go of some things that aren't in tune with this sacrifice, of aligning with the truth of us here and now, in this moment, in this breath, in my heart with my beloved. It's a is sattvic, that yajna, sacrifice or duty, is sattvic, which is offered by men and women who desire no fruit, no fruit, no fruit of the action. Really? We're put into this material world with endless desires for whatever we could consider wanting or doing or not wanting or doing, filled with desire. Our great enemy is giving me lots of trouble, says Sri Yukteswar. That enemy, with his soldiers surrounding me, that desire enemy, is giving me lots of trouble, Lord. But that enemy I will deceive, remaining in thy castle of peace. So, that yajna is sattvic, which is offered by men and women who desire no rewards. No, I want this, so I'm going to go out and get it. Desire no fruit of the actions that we do. As Yogananda said once, be in the candy store, but don't touch the candy. Wow, what a sublime purpose we all have here this morning. Narayan, Mary, and Alex, thank you for being here. And Denny, thank you so much to be sharing this beautiful morning with me, and I with you, and of course with the holy ones, and the blessings of the Bhagavad Gita, the blessings of, of Krishna and our Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda. Yeah. So it's quite an honor, I must say, of all the things that we could be doing right now or be thinking about right now. We're here, right now. So can you imagine the Sattvic Guna and being in that consciousness that we have no attachment to the fruits of our actions, that there's nothing in it for me. There's nothing, usually people will decide things on, okay, what do I get out of this? You know? So, but this is about having no desire for any kind of outcome, any kind of result. No fruit of action is offered by men. It's offered. That's a sacrifice. That's a sacrifice, isn't it? Right? I mean, do you still have some mortal desires here and there? I certainly, I'm working on limiting the amount, right? And not taking any credit, not taking any credit for something I do. Wow, what a goal that is. And this is done in accordance. So this sacrifice, this sattvic sacrifice of not desiring any fruit of action, is done in accordance with the scriptures. This is what the Bhagavad Gita is suggesting is the top-notch way to go about life, the sattvic quality. And it's done in accordance with the scriptures for the sake of righteousness only. Can't tell you how many times in the ashram we said it's do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, right? So in this case, we're making sacrifices to remember who we are, to let go of those old stories, those old habits, best we can manage to do that, and to clean up the shop this time around, to purify our motives this time around, to get up close and personal with the divine beloved this time around for righteousness only. So do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. So could this be the purpose of existence? What we're talking about this morning, my dears, is making sacrifices of what is not the reality, not the purpose of existence, that is not, going to bring us that satisfaction and that completeness and that understanding that we are all divine beings having divine experiences. If only we knew that, right? It can't be anything other than that. You're an immortal soul, so am I. So heaven is in the kingdom of heaven is within us. I think someone named Jesus Christ said that in his teachings, right? So we're trying to do things in accordance with the scriptures for the sake of do it because it's the right thing to do. Because for the sake of righteousness only, for the sake of love. Do it for love. That to me resonates a lot more than that word righteousness. I like righteousness, but it doesn't come close to the meaning of what unconditional love resonates within me for. Yeah. So that's verse 11, Sattvic Guna. So verse 12, you could guess where we're going now. Rajas Guna. Know thou, O best of Bharatas, Arjuna. Bharatas meaning that you are a great soul, or you're part of that dynasty that is going for broke here, going for freedom, going from the 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 high sattvic return home with the divine beloved and divine consciousness. Know thou, O best of Bharatas, Arjuna, that the yajna performed in the hope of reward. So here we go now, Rajaskuna, in the hope of reward. Now we're doing this for something. And it may not be pure. It may not be that pure golden, Lord, you're the doer anyway, so I can't do anything. So why don't I give you right from the get-go all the credit, all the kudos for the life I've lived thus far and how I am today and how I would love to have as the day proceeds today that I am in, and you guys choose what guna am I in today, right? Am I doing something today? Am I planning something today that has a reward, a hope of a reward? I got a few meetings today. What is my desire? Is there an outcome that I want to have? I'm just saying, we all have something that's on our plate today, don't we? What's your motive? See if this can be something that is, well, you decide which which guna is going to be activated. Maybe there's a little mix. Maybe there's a little sattva going on, and just a tiny bit of a hope of a reward. Just maybe, just a tiny bit. That the yajna performed in the hope of reward and in an ostentation spirit. So you got some, that good old edging God out, ego, ego, edging God out in it. The spirit or an ostentatious spirit is rajasic in nature. The hope of reward and an ostentatious, that mean that you're not going to even fake that you're doing something that is selfless. You're not even going to fake it. You just do it. So you're in an ostentatious spirit mood, and that is rajasic in nature. All right. When there's still something there's a piece of the pie. Leave me a piece of the pie, would you? Okay, so that's the Rajas guna, verse 12 of this chapter 17. And then now you can guess what verse 13 is, right? Getting down to the dark side of life. That yajna is condemned. I wonder who's condemning it. That yajna is condemned as tamasic. This is the dark guna, the tamas guna. That yajna is condemned as tamasic, which is without regard for the spiritual injunctions. There's a lot of that going on, wouldn't you say, Mary, Alex, Narayan, Denny, or maybe not, in our world today, without regard for. Well, there's one thing. There's no regard for a constitution in our country, right? It seems. Now, this is saying no regard for any kind of spiritual injunction or this way of righteousness or this way of love, right? There's just no concern, there's no consideration for it at all. And perhaps that's why we're in the predicament that is cosmic design. We're supposed to be in this time because God wouldn't allow it to happen if it ain't the right time for whatever's happening to happen, right? But with total non-regard for scriptural injunctions, without offerings. They're making a lot of offerings to these Buddhist monks or these Tibetan monks. They're giving them food, water, boarding, right? Taking care of those men that have no. They're in the sattvic quality for sure, right? There's nothing in it for them but this walk of peace. Nothing in it for them. Such a beautiful teaching, such a beautiful spiritual injunction, right? That path that those Tibetan monks are are exemplary behavior. What a what they're doing is not the words, it's not the preaching, it's just the absolute perfect example of how we should go about. If we want to be sattvic, that's the way to go about it. You put it in action. You put it in action. But this tamas is without offerings of food. So a lot of people are taking care of those monks. And God will always take care of us if we. You think you're not going to take care of you if you let go of some of your addictions, some of those rewards? You don't think he'll make up for it? Huh? You'll get rewards, but they're the rewards of that which you are really seeking. Soul awakening. But this tamasic quality is without regard for scriptural injunctions, without offerings of food and gifts of appreciation. There's no gratitude in the tamasic quality at all. It's the opposite. It's all about the ego. It's all about edging God out. Without offerings of food and gifts of appreciation, the tamas has no concern for that. Without sacred prayers or chants, they have no concern for that. And without devotion to God, not in the picture. Not yet. Not yet in the picture. If we're in that low vibe. But you know what? Even being in that low vibe, even being in the darkest dark of the dark, it's not going to change the fact that you are the light. And one day you're going to feel it. You're going to experience it. You're going to celebrate it. And you're going to live forever in it. How's that? So there's really good news underneath the dark side of things. There's good news underneath the dark side of things. Always good news. Because where the dark comes out of the light, my dears, right? So that's the 13th verse of chapter 17. all those condemned. Yajna is condemned as tamasic, which is without regard for scriptural injunction, without offerings of food and gifts of appreciation, without sacred prayers or chants, and without devotion to God. We might have still many days that we're hanging out in that lower energy, but that's okay. It's all okay. You know what I'm saying? Don't let yourself get into the even get close to the habit of kind of trying to figure this stuff out. Just go about having a lovely day, my dears. You know what? They say that it's not rocket science what we have going on here to have a sattvic life, you know? What? I mean, be kind. Be kind. I mean, that's doable, right? You know, have 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 a personal rapport with the creator. Just personal, up close and personal. There's a personal element in your search for God, Yogananda says, personal element in your search for God greater than mastery over the whole science of yoga. And we're reading the scripture of yoga, right? But there's a personal element here that's greater than mastery over the whole science of yoga. So I'm just saying we're in great shape being on this line right now. That says it all. There's their exemplar. You are the exemplars of the sattvic living, man and woman, sattvic living at its finest. So Yogananda now is going to comment. So those were just the verses and just my little commentary on those verses. So this is what Yogananda, want to hear what Yogananda has to say? That's why you're here, probably. The minds of sattvic persons. This is a great little definition if you have a pen. The minds of sattvic persons are concentrated solely on God. Where is my mind? If I want to be sattva, I'm going to be concentrated solely on God as their goal, as my goal. The minds of sattvic persons are concentrated. So what's on the agenda for today? Concentrate solely on God. Could that be your ultimate purpose of any day, my dears? Every day is concentrate solely on God. What a what an opportunity, what a blessing we have that we got up this morning and we decided to go to a Gita class. Really? That says so much about that you have this the sole determination and the sole intention of concentrating solely on God. How sattvic is that, my dear? So throw yourself a little spirit bone. Throw the dog a bone, as the saying goes. Give yourself a pat on the back is another way to say it. So the minds of sattvic persons are concentrated solely on God. There you go, Mary. Are concentrated solely on God as their goal. So here's a little difference from the Rajas. The unlike Rajasic devotion offered, so the Rajas, they offer, let's see the difference. Let's see the difference. Unlike Rajasic devotion offered with the idea of a reward, or if you were a doggy, you'd go, I want my treat. I want my treats. They love their treats, right? So the Rajasic devotion offered with the expectation of, I want my treat. I want my treat now. I want my reward now, Lord. I was a good boy today. Or if you're in a married life and your husband or wife are asking you to do something around the house and you put it off and put it off and you finally do it and go, hey, I did it. I did it. Okay, right? It's got a little rajas going on in it, some kind of expectation of receiving boons, or in some cases, powers. or phenomenal experiences or the acclamation of admirers. The singular motivation of the sattvic devotee is the inherent. So that was just the rajasic kind of possibilities, right? That you do something and there's an expectation of receiving boons, powers, phenomenal experiences, or the acclamation of admirers. But listen, the singular motivation of the sattvic devotee. So let's lift up to sattvic now. The singular motivation of the sattvic devotee is the inherent rightness. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. We heard that forever in the ashram. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. The singular motivation of the sattvic devotee is the inherent rightness of conforming to God's divine commandments. And here it is, and the sheer joy they feel in loving Him. Okay, so we have a divine duty, right? Ideally, we want to be sattvic, right? We want to have that inherent rightness. We want that righteousness. We want to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. We want to conform to God's divine commandments. But having said all that, and here's a bonus that comes. Here's the treat. Here's the reward that we're seeking, whether we know it or not, even in the material world. Why do we have desires? Because we think it's going to make us feel better, whatever. It's going to be pleasurable, blah, 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 right? So in this case, the sattvic devotee is in the inherent rightness of conforming to God's divine commandments. Okay, we'll follow the commandments. And this, the sheer joy they feel in loving God. Okay, that's our stream this morning. The sheer joy they feel, or we can feel in loving God, that our offering is always the one thing God doesn't have, and that is our love. So what an amazing sentence this is, right? The sheer joy of feeling, the sheer joy that we feel in loving God. Is that motivation? How clean is that? Is that sattvic to you? Is it leaning in any way on the rajas? It's certainly not the tamas, and it's not the rajas that we just described, where there's something to get out of something, right? This doesn't want any of that something to get out of something. It doesn't. It just wants the sheer joy of feeling that you feel, the sheer joy that you feel in loving God, the sheer joy that we feel in loving God. I'd say, let's go sattvic today, team. What do you say? We're the Rainbow Tribe. If some of you haven't been on the stream, the meditation, it's not even a meditation I do, I don't think. It's just a stream. It's just a stream of inspiration. And way back in the early years of living in the ashram, I had to tap into inspiration individually because it was such a tough life in that monastery for me. And so I only had one option to go tap into my inner fountain of inspiration, regardless of what's being said, the discipline that was required, all the stuff. I just knew that I had to tap into the spring of inspiration. And that still applies to today. This is why I do a daily, uh, uh, what is called sacred soul meditation, but it really is. It's just an inspirational outpouring. That's all. To be honest, and I think you all would agree with that. That's what it is. But who's to put a label on something like that? If it feels right, If it's up there in the sattvic realm, that's plenty good. But the sheer joy of feeling what it's like just to love him, and not nothing, no physical reward, no outward reward, no admiring, oh, what a great soul someone is, whatever, right? Just the pure joy of feeling what it's like to love him, right? That's why St. Francis had this beautiful saying. I found it in the mission in Santa Barbara when I went through it when I was in college. And it was up there in the mission, and it was a quote from um, St. Francis, and he said that love is not being loved. Love is not being loved. Love is not being loved. I love that. Love is not. Let's make up for lost time in case that's true for us, my dears, or been in our, kind of life experience. Let's don't. That's God doesn't have our love. Let's give him the best offering that's possible, and that is our love. All right. So we can feel the sheer joy of just loving him. How's that for a sattvic way to go about it? By the very nature of their worship, the Rajasic, so here we're back on Rajasic, receive the temporal and temporary rewards. That's why it's probably pretty mainstream, Rajas living. You're still going to church. You're still doing, making donations when you go to church or whatever, right? So there's some temporary rewards that you can earn as Rajas. That's why it's probably a most lived in guna is the Rajas. You can still have, have some pleasures, this and that, right? It's kind of mainstream. So the Rajasic receive the temporal and temporary rewards they earn. The Sattvic attain the blissful and all fulfilling ecstasy of God union. Choose, my dears. Which one do you want? Temporal and temporary rewards? Well, maybe we blend it. Maybe we get a temporary Rajasic reward. Who's judging this, right? You throw the dog a bone. That's another way to look at throwing the dog a bone. You know, you can break your diet. You can have a little treat every now and then. Because your motive is pure, my dears. Because your motive is pure. But anyway, there's the temporal and temporary rewards in the Rajasic, and the Sattvic attain the blissful and all-fulfilling ecstasy of God union. What an amazing morning I think that this is turning out to be. Right? And then this last one, this verse 13, that yajna is condemned as tamasic. Okay, so you want to go dark for a while. That yajna is condemned as tamasic, that dark side, which is without regard for the scriptural injunctions, without offerings of food and gifts of appreciation. We said that earlier, without sacred prayers or chants, and without devotion to God. And so that verse that I just read, Yogananda comments and says that last stanza, that one that I just read, no scriptural injunctions, without offerings of food and gifts of appreciation, without sacred prayers, without chants, without devotion to God. That stanza applies to, you know what? You haven't heard this word in a long time. Voodooism. Voodoo. Voodooism. That's what it applies. Voodooism, sorcery, devil worship, and other practices of black magic that serve to mystify and enthrall persons. God, would you say that our nation is going through a pretty serious tamasic roller coaster ride? Would you? Would you? Now that I'm reading this, the last stanza applies to voodooism, sorcery, devil worship. Not to put that those words on what's happening, but just kind of the vibe sometimes. It's just like what it's just like unthinkable, right? It's just unthinkable. Some of the things that are being said, some of the things that are being done, just unthinkable. So it's got to be in this category of voodooism, sorcery, devil worship, other practices of black magic, although it's not said that way. That serve, but this is true to mystify and enthrall persons, to mystify and enthrall persons, and that produce no spiritually elevating results. So people are down and out in Beverly Hills. They're down and out in Virginia. They're down and out in California. They're down and out. So they're down and out. No spiritually elevating results. Such ceremonies are devoid of good vibrations. So if you're feeling like there's no good vibration, no more good vibrations, right? It's because of that tamasic quality. Don't take it personally. Don't take it seriously. There's such ceremonies are devoid of good vibrations and of helpful consideration for others. God, that's coming back. That's coming back to our country. Helpful consideration for others. That's coming back through you and me. I mean, the kindness is coming up from the darkest dark, right? That's what it's bringing out. All this stuff, and the darkness. You say that's enough already. Enough already. I'm done with that. And then in comes the kindness. In come the good vibrations. In come the helpful consideration for others, and they are performed solely, though, if you're tamasic, all those things are performed solely to satisfy the evil emotions of ignorant men. Those ceremonies that are devoid of good vibrations. But I'm talking about what's coming up in our world are the good vibrations. Is coming up these things that the tamas bring out. They have ceremonies, but they're not of the kind that are coming out, right? Good vibrations, helpful consideration for others. So their ceremonies are those dark things, sorcery and all that stuff. And voodooism. So that is performed by the tamasic people solely to satisfy the evil emotions of ignorant people. Okay, so I'm going to finish that last stanza 13, and we'll get ready for our inspiration in this sacred soul inspiration coming up daily. So any Yogananda concludes, this is page 998. And then I have a footnote. Any unholy rites or practice beliefs that encourage the development and use of the potentials and powers of evil are condemned by the wise and by scriptural canon as anathema, vile and ruinous deviltry. Did you know that anathema means vile and ruinous deviltry? Anyway, so that's our stream of the three grades of spiritual practices, my dears. Ooh. And we're going to stay on this chapter for a while. So that's just the three grades of spiritual practices. We got a good taste of it, didn't we? And some insight to make your day. All right? Come on, make my day. So this is the footnote at the bottom of 998. A part of the tradition of sanctified yajna, so the sacrifice, sanctified yajna or formal worship is distribution of food and a gift appreciation to the guru or presiding officiant. The offering of food to guests, the poor, or Brahmins, priests, renunciants, or other holy persons who have given their lives to God, who have given their lives to serving God, symbolizes a charitable heart that shares its blessings. A charitable heart which shares its blessings, you all. This charitable heart that shares this blessing, which is man and woman's duty to our fellow beings. Isn't that beautiful? Charitable heart that shares its blessings is man's duty to his fellow beings. Wow. The spiritually obligatory fee or donation offered to the guru or officiating priest expresses the gratitude owed to the one from whom spiritual ministration has been received. So obviously, this is why those people are giving food to those beautiful Tibetan monks and shelter and anything else. Who knows what else is what's gonna come from all of this, from that beautiful walk of peace. So those spiritual obligatory fees or donations offered to the guru or officiating priest expresses the gratitude owed to the one from whom spiritual ministration has been received and recognition of the value of that instruction. But I can't believe how beautiful this sentence is. All persons have that a charitable heart. This is it. This is another keynote for the morning. To have a charitable heart that shares its blessings, which is our duty to our fellow beings. A charitable heart that shares its blessings is our duty to our fellow beings. A charitable heart that shares its blessings is our duty to our fellow beings. Wow. All right. We're all good. Are you feeling good? You feeling good vibrations, my dears? Are you feeling that willingness to elevate and share your blessings with anyone that crosses your path today and anyone you see today? Go for it. Let's do it. Narayan ji, Mary Alex, thank you for your time this morning. It turned into a love fest celebration of the highest qualities that we possess as immortal souls. And so it is, and that is that. Holy woly. Exactly, Narayan. All right, we'll see you all. We'll see you all in the sattvic. All right, we'll see you all in this sharing of our blessings to our fellow human beings. All right, love you all, and that is that.